All right, Nemo Radio is live. All right, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I am so excited to be back with you. It's John Nemo. I am here broadcasting live on Facebook. Also, want to welcome those of you that are listening to the podcast, audio of this. And right now you're missing a visual treat, a succulent, appetizing visual scene right this very moment. Me with a guitar. All right, I'm going to start the show with a little live music because it's Friday. Actually, before I start with the live music, I want to tell you a little story. So gather around the Facebook feed, gather around the podcast, put in those earbuds a little tighter. Last night I was driving, and I was meeting some friends for dinner, some grade school buddies, and I was stuck in traffic, and I was so frustrated, and the feeling was so foreign to me because it's been almost 5 years since I worked a day job. 5 years since I've been on my own working from home. And why I'm sharing this story is I forgot how awful rush hour is. I forgot how annoying it is to be stuck in traffic to and from work. I'm so grateful that we live in an era right now, you and me, where we literally can do whatever we want for a living. There literally are no more gates. The gates are down. The gatekeepers are gone. If you want to do your own, business, you can do it. The tools are there. The technology is there. You can reach a global audience. When I started 5 years ago, 2012, quit my day job, half the tools I use now weren't even invented. And I just think if you're somebody that's sitting stuck in traffic, frustrated, maybe you're listening to the podcast right now on a bus, a train, whatever, why aren't you doing your own thing? Why aren't you leaving that behind and dictating your own future? I just want to fire you up. I want to get people excited to really understand the power of, the era that we live in, that the technology, the tools, if you have knowledge, if you have a product, a service, something that you can bring value to other people with, then you really can run your own business. I mean, it really is that simple. So what I want to do for this show, I have a stack, literally a stack of questions, and I'll share some thoughts about that, the questions that have been coming in, and also want to share a little music because it's a Friday. I'm excited because I just restrung my guitar. Let's see how it sounds. Still in tune. I hadn't restrung my guitar for many years, but a friend of mine is coming over tonight, and we're going to jam on guitars. I used to play in a band. You probably didn't know that. Back in my 20s. It was so fun. But I love the blues. I love the blues. That's how I got into guitar, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton. And yes, I'll get into the show questions, but I'm having a little fun here. It's Friday. Just love the blues. Oh, right? Oh, there you go. Thank you. I'll be taking requests. All right, so I want to have some fun. It's Friday, right? Let's live. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, everybody that is part of the LinkedIn Riches, the Webinars That Work community. One of the things I've really discovered and really had fun with the new technology is the power of live video and creating content once, but then being able to syndicate that across all these different platforms. So one thing I wanted to start with on this podcast was also the power of audio. I'm amazed at what's happening. So one story to tell you is when I first wrote my book, LinkedIn Riches, and by the way, this is an interesting story in itself, but you can get a free copy of it. So if you go to linkedinriches.com, you can get the book for free. You can get the audiobook version, the PDF, the Kindle, whatever you want. It's a lead magnet for me. It's an email opt-in, way to get people into my LinkedIn Riches world. And what's been fascinating to me is when I wrote the book and I revised it and updated it in 2014, I put it back out on all the sales channels. The audiobook version actually outsells, I think, the print version now. The audiobook version of LinkedIn Riches, which I recorded in 2014, which I never promote, I don't run ads, I don't do anything for it, it sells 50 to 60 copies a month, just on autopilot. And what's so interesting about that is the people that come in through the audiobook, and of course, the way that I write books now is, I build in lead magnets. I say, hey, if you're really enjoying this book and you want more, you can go get some free training videos here. That's a bonus with the book. And then I'll say, hey, if you really like this section, you can watch a video that demonstrates it here. Go to this special URL. And that builds my email list from people that buy the book on their own. So what's been interesting, though, is the people that come in through the audiobook into my webinars, my email list, they're so much higher value. They're so much more qualified than people that just came in through an ebook or a lead magnet or a Facebook ad. And then I think it's because of the power of audio. Same thing with this podcast that you're listening to right now. I'm in your head. Like literally, you've probably got earbuds or earphones on or in your car. And, I'm in your head. You can hear me. You can hear the passion, the enthusiasm, the tone of voice. There's something about audio right now going on, and I see a lot of people moving into it. Gary Vaynerchuk is one who's going all in with podcasts and audio, and I really encourage you as well, especially if you're a coach, a consultant, a speaker, anyone that teaches for a living, shares your knowledge. This is a really, really hot platform right now, audio. So podcasts, audiobooks. Again, I think the reason is, my podcast episodes have tripled in downloads, and I haven't done anything differently, right? I don't have a dramatically different platform. I don't do dramatically different form of sharing it. They've just tripled. And I think what's happening is someone goes, let's say they want an audiobook, right? So audible.com. They go in and they use it like a search engine. They type in LinkedIn tips or LinkedIn, and my book pops up, right? Because I have the keywords in the title and the description, and it's on there and it sells. So it's just the repeating situation. Same with Amazon.com. People go on Amazon and use it now like a search engine. They type in LinkedIn book, LinkedIn tips, how to sell with LinkedIn. Because I've put those keywords into my book, it shows up on the first page of search results. It's just like Google. People are finding me organically on these book platforms. Same with podcasts. You go into iTunes, you type in LinkedIn or webinars or digital marketing, right? My podcast is showing up. People are finding it, listening to it. And then I think the other really interesting thing is the binge quality of podcasts or audiobooks, right? You can binge listen to episodes with podcasts and go through it. We saw this with Serial and, the other things that have been going on with some of these different podcasts. And it's amazing to me what's going on. It's amazing to me, for you listening to understand the value of this, to really get going with your audio game. I haven't developed a podcasting course yet. There's a lot of good ones out there. I get a lot of people asking me, what do you use? How do you do it? Is it really hard? No, it's super, super easy. I just have a MacBook Pro and I have a Blue Yeti microphone. I'm lifting up and moving around here. And I record myself in GarageBand on my Mac. I made myself a little intro with GarageBand. I just dropped in some music clips. Then I recorded, I exported as an MP3 file, and I bought a software called Audello, AUDELLO.com. And that uploads it to all the podcast networks. So iTunes and Stitcher and all that. I got a separate account with SoundCloud. I upload it there. I found out there's a really easy way now to submit it to Google and Amazon. So now it's on the Google Play Store, on the Amazon Store, because people are asking Alexa and asking their Google Dot or whatever their thing is called, find me a podcast on LinkedIn. And it's like searching, would you like to listen to this one? Here's the deal. We're relying more. The robots are taking over. Okay? The robots are taking over. It's official. What I am finding is people are consuming audio at a clip that they never have before. And so I really want to emphasize that as I start up this Nemo Radio Live, the simulcast here on Facebook Live, and also the audio for it, for people to really understand there's something going on here. And I think it's only going to get bigger and better. And I think it's because we now can take podcasts with us. You carry it in your pocket with your phone, the podcast apps. Now the home devices are doing it, the home robots like Alexa and Google Dot, and Apple just released, I think it's like an at-home speaker kind of deal that is coming out. So they're getting into that. Really, really, really emphasize for you however you're building your brand. And one of the core audiences I try to serve and help is coaches, consultants, trainers, speakers, authors, small business owners, solo entrepreneurs. If you're in that category and you don't have a podcast and you don't have an audiobook, you're missing a lot of business. Like, it's amazing to me the quality of a lead that comes in, because again, they've listened to me already. They know my spiel. They know my personality. They come in just asking, how much is your program? How do I sign up? They don't come in saying, who are you? I don't know you. I don't like you. I don't trust you. They come in ready to buy. And that's the secret with audio and even video products too, right? Doing these Facebook Lives, you can see my face. You can see the expressions. That caveman part of our brain is trusting more as a result. So with all that said, I do have stacks of questions I want to get into, and I want to really cover, this topic's amazing to me, webinars. People are really writing back a lot about webinars. And what's been interesting, if you don't know the process behind this, I've got over 13,000 LinkedIn connections, and obviously that's where I made my start, built my business in 2012. Kind of going back to the beginning of this episode, when I quit my day job, the story behind that was I wanted to open my own marketing agency. I wanted to work from home, not fight rush hour traffic. I needed clients fast. And how do I get them? I went on LinkedIn. This is all the way back in 2012, and I found it to be this treasure trove of prospects. And then I understood, oh, there's a certain way to connect and to engage and to talk and to sell on LinkedIn. And it's very similar to how we do it in real life, but I did not see anybody doing it well, at least not to the degree that I thought I could. And so I was able to build, using LinkedIn, tons of connections, right? I've got over 13,000 now, but more importantly, I got clients for my business. So I was able to feed my kids, pay the mortgage. I generated 6 figures in revenue in 90 days on LinkedIn back in 2012. Built out a marketing agency, had a bunch of clients, hired people, did that for a while, and was like, oh, this isn't, as fun as I wanted it to be. By then, people were asking me all about LinkedIn, and I want to get business on LinkedIn. So I created the course. I wrote the book, LinkedIn Riches. Then I was like, that's really fun. I like online training. I like teaching. I'm the son of 2 English teachers. This is in my DNA and my blood. And so I created more online courses. So now I've got webinars that work, and that's the main way that I sell LinkedIn Riches, is through webinars, and I sell the Webinars That Work course through it. And what's been fascinating to me, as I circle back to my point here with LinkedIn, is using LinkedIn every day to talk to my 13,000 connections, because it is another email list, basically, right, on that platform. So I use a shortcut tool, an automation tool called LinMail Pro. And basically what I do is I can message 300 or 400 or 500 people every day automatically on LinkedIn using the LinkedIn messaging system, so I can talk to them one-on-one. And it's personalized. It's got their name and everything, just like an email list is. And then I ask people, this is the big step I've taken this year that's really helped my business and grow my platform, is instead of just offering content, assuming I know what people want. Well, you're a business coach. You should want this free ebook I have for business coaches. Instead of just giving them that right away, I ask. I just take that extra step, just like we do in real life, and I talk to people. So the current message I'm running to all 13,000 connections is basically, hey, tell me more about what you're up to professionally. How are things going? Curious, how your professional life is going. Sincerely wanting to hear that, right? Hear where people are at. And then I say, and if you're looking for any help with, LinkedIn or webinars, I would love to, answer questions for you. And to make it more fun, so it's not just a one-on-one private exchange, I'll do it on my podcast and I'll do it on Facebook Live. And I'll give you a shout out about, your business, who you are, what you do. And people love it, right? I'm getting hundreds of replies. So I'm trying to print them all out and go through them all, to be sincere and to answer the questions, but it's really hard to keep up. And I think what I've really tapped into is this reciprocity and understanding. People love to get a shout out. Not only do they love having you answer their question privately one-on-one, even better, they love to get recognized, to get promoted, to get talked about to a larger audience. And so take that, bottle it up, use that in your own business if you want. This ability to, to really engage with people, not just pushing content at them, not just using LinkedIn or your email list to say, read this, do that, download this, but ask them, engage them, do a little bit of what I call that one-on-one personalized marketing. I think if you do that, you really see a huge increase in engagement, a lot more value, and I'm really finding the people that are signing up, that are buying my online trainings, are the people that are coming in through audio resources, podcasts, audiobook, whatever, but also more people coming in through engagement. It's not through cold Facebook ads. It's not the, millionaire sit on the beach and make money while you sleep kind of shenanigans. It's talking to people, right? We sell by talking to people. So with all that said, I want to get to some of these questions because there's a ton of good ones. John J.B. Russell says, what is the best way to ensure you get traffic and conversions to attend your webinar? Sorry, 2 questions, he says. That's fine, John. And how do you bill off the back of your webinar and do it fast? So I guess 2-part question from John Russell. 1, how do you get people to your webinar? And 2, how do you monetize it? How do you bill on the back end of it? Okay, so first thing, I've got 10 different ways that I teach people of how to get traffic to webinars. And I have a whole training on this, a paid product too. It's webinarsthatwork.net, I think /limitless. I call it limitless traffic. There's 10 different ways. Webinarsthatwork.net /limitless. You can buy that product if you want. I'll talk through some of them right now for you. I use a ton of different methods. One, an obvious one that I've been talking about on this is audio. I'm amazed at the amount of people that are listening to a podcast and then signing up for a webinar. Because if you think about it, a podcast is a perfect 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-minute warm-up to the webinar. And a webinar usually is going to be a 60-minute presentation, really in-depth, with a sales pitch at the end. And so one of the most effective ways I'm seeing right now is podcasts, is audio content, also Facebook Live, videos, things like that. Another great one is LinkedIn. Of course, that's where I make my living, but using LinkedIn to talk to engage with your existing connections one-on-one, because you can target them so specifically. So for instance, I don't know what type of business John Russell has, but let's say John wanted to reach business coaches. I'm just making this up. You can literally use LinkedIn like Google, right? It's got 500 million members. You type the term business coaches into the LinkedIn search engine, it spits out thousands and thousands and thousands of business coaches all over the world. Now you further refine that list by, where do they live, or what college do they go to, or what industry are they in, healthcare, fitness, finance, whatever. Now you have these hyper-targeted lists of people for your webinar. Step 2 is very simple. You go and connect with them. You strike up a conversation. You start engaging. This is what I call personalized one-on-one marketing. And it's good for you to engage and do this and spend your time doing it because it's your core prospect. It's not like you're just randomly walking up to people on the street saying, hey, would you ever be interested in this or that? No, like they're a business coach. They're in this industry. This is exactly who your product serves. So let's start talking to them. Let's engage. Let's get to know and like and trust each other. And you can do it on LinkedIn at a massive scale. So that's another one that I use to invite people to webinars. What other ones? Amazon. Amazon's this incredible weapon that people are not taking advantage of, right? Billions and billions of people, it feels like, maybe they don't have billions of users, it feels like they do, but Amazon is a search engine now. People literally go on there and type in a LinkedIn or coaching tips or fitness trends or whatever it is, and they look for resources. They look for audiobooks. They look for ebooks. They look for videos. And so if you take some of your content, your blog posts, your video trainings, your podcast episodes, put them and bundle them into a product, and then either give it away for free on Amazon as a free ebook or 99 cents Kindle download, or put it up as a book, right? Or put it up as an audiobook. Because Amazon now, they either own or partner with audible.com. Amazon owns everything, don't they? So what I do is I put my products and resources on Amazon. People use it like a search engine. And then inside of the books, the audiobooks, the videos, whatever you buy or download for free on Amazon, from me, from John, you have invitations and links and prompts to, hey, if you want more, get on the webinar. So that's another great one to use. And I can go deeper on this too. One tool I'll recommend, because people always love tools, I found a really interesting tool to turn several blog posts into a fancy looking ebook that people can download as a PDF, or you can even export it as a Kindle book and things like that. It's called Designer, and it's DESIGNRR.com. So it's designer, instead of the E, just put in 2 R's at the end. And it's this guy that I've bought other products from. I think it's either Paul Clifford or somebody like that, but I've been using it. I've been pleasantly surprised. So what you do is you take existing blog posts you've already written, you literally copy and paste their links, their URLs into this program designer, and it spits out a pre-done, pre-laid out ebook with headers and footers and all the fonts and designs, and it imports the photos. It's really cool. And then you can put that up as a lead magnet, right? Bottle up some of your best stuff or stick it over on Amazon as a 99-cent Kindle book, right, on a certain topic. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of that because, again, to answer JB Russell's question, that's another great way to get people on webinars. Now, you can also do a lot of guest blogging, obviously getting in front of audiences, putting in links. That works incredibly well. Email list is still one of the best ways to do it. Get an email list, build an email list, and then invite them to the webinar. Warm them up, get to know, like, and trust each other, then invite them. So, yeah, good stuff, good stuff. All right. Gail Gardner's got a question. Gail is with growmap.com. She says, the number one question I get is how to scale webinars. What will it cost and which solutions to use as your webinar grows? Most, and this is important, Gail knows her stuff, most webinar solutions have a limit to how many you can set up or attend or how many people can be on it, and the ones that don't can be cost prohibitive. Gail, great question. Very true about webinars. The number one question I get and the number one question I answer on my trainings is, what platform should I use for webinars? So here's the answer. I'm just going to give it to you, right? Webinar Jam and EverWebinar for Evergreen. And the reason is there's tons of different platforms out there. There's GoToWebinar, which is probably the best known. Zoom is another one that's a lot of people like. There's lots of other options too. The problem with almost all of the webinar platforms out there is they charge you based on number of attendees or based on number of webinars you do. So for instance, GoToWebinar has tiered pricing plans, and it's like, hey, if you have over 10 attendees, you have to pay this much. If you have a webinar with over 500 attendees, you have to pay this much. If you have a webinar with over 1,000, you have to pay this much. And it's a lot of money. I mean, it's hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month just to run the webinars. What I like about Webinar Jam and EverWebinar, Webinar Jam is for live and hybrid webinars. EverWebinar is for evergreen or automated webinars, which I highly recommend. That's another topic. But what I like about it is it's $400 a year, flat rate, done, and then you get unlimited everything. Unlimited attendees, unlimited webinars. They have everything built into the software, so the landing pages are there, so you can set up your landing page through Webinar Jam. The emails are there. They'll shoot out all the emails for you on their server. You can set up sales pages and thank you pages and registration. All of it's all done and encompassed in one place. And best of all, they're improving it quite a bit. There's a new version of it coming out this summer that will be, 100% their own product. Right now, they stream through YouTube Live, which is fine. It works good, and Google Hangouts. But they're coming out with an updated version that'll be their own servers and things like that. I love it. I mean, I've been using Webinar Jam for 2 or 3 years. It's hands down easily the most cost efficient, value on the market. I love it. I run all my webinars through it. It's been phenomenal. So great question. Ruben Schwartz, I should say, has a good question. Any tips on, I love this question. Any tips on reusing your live webinar content for other marketing purposes? Yes, Ruben. I was looking forward to this question. Here's what I do. So I'm always constantly improving and changing and updating my webinars. A lot of what I do is learn, and monitor the audience analytics on a webinar and Webinar Jam shows you all this, and most platforms do, but where are people dropping off, or where, how are sales going, whatever. But I can see for the training portions of the webinar, what's resonating, what's not resonating. For instance, when I launch webinars that work, and you can see this whole webinar process, if you want to get on the sales webinar, see how I do it, see how I do all the emails, everything like that, go to webinarsthatwork.net/join. Webinarsthatwork.net/join. That'll take you through the whole process. You'll see how I do this. But basically, what I learned when I launched Webinars That Work, I thought, I did audience surveys and things like that, and I think this is what they want to learn, right? The 9 simple tips behind wildly effective webinars. Okay, so it was 9 tips about, really hardcore strategy. Do this, do that, do this. What I found was I kept getting questions about, well, that's really cool, but I was really hoping you'd tell me what platform to use or how to create slides, because I feel stuck. Like, before I can get into a webinar on the strategy, I'm too intimidated by the technology and the platform and the how to make slides and how to get people to show up. And so I made a new webinar where I covered those 3 things, right? Best platform to use and why and how it works. a really easy, no-cost way to create, wildly successful, visually stunning slides. Like anyone can do it. You don't need PowerPoint. You don't need a designer. It's super simple. It's a great software. And then I also talked some about how to get people to sign up for webinars. And so what I did to answer Ruben's question was I didn't throw out the first version, the 9 simple tips. I took that training, that 30, 40-minute chunk of training that was just pure great tips, and I put that on the side as a bonus, right? So what I did was, now for people who go through the current webinar, and if you sign up and go through this, you'll see how it works. If you sign up and you don't purchase immediately, you get put into a follow-up email sequence that adds more value, that brings more tips, right, to warm you up more so that, when you're ready to buy the online course, I've earned your attention, earned your trust enough to go, yeah, these guys, the free tips are amazing. Of course, I want to buy the paid product. Let's go. But what I do is I take those 9 tips and I give them as a follow-up gift, free, no charge, no opt-in, after the webinar. Right, so I've done that with other components as well of my LinkedIn Riches webinars, which by now I've been doing them for 3 or 4 years. I have like 40 or 50 different versions of that webinar. I'll pull out parts of the training and I'll create blog posts from it. I'll create little mini training videos from it. I'll create podcast episodes from it because I can just strip out the audio. So never waste content. Whenever you create content, whether it's for a webinar, a podcast, a blog post, always think about, what are other ways I can distribute this and share this? What other platforms could it fit on? Could I take this Facebook Live video and put it on YouTube and put in some keywords so that it gets found on search? Could I strip out the audio from this Facebook Live and upload that as a podcast? Could I get a transcript of that from speechpad.com for $1 a minute and turn that into an ebook or a Q&A, right? Something like that. There's all these different ways we can be using, the content more and more. So don't let that go. Great question, though. So we got another question. Scott Rayburn, all right. What is the best way to weed through all the potential prospects and market to your target market? And then 2 is a webinar. I love how people, I say, ask me one question, they send 2. I'm just giving you a hard time, Scott. Scott says, 2, is a webinar a good way to position myself as an expert in my field? Oh my gosh, yes. So to answer both questions, number 1, what's the best way to weed through all the potential prospects and reach your target market? LinkedIn, hands down. Hands down, LinkedIn. Because as I explained earlier, you can use it like a search engine. You can literally enter in the job titles, the company names, the industry types. You literally can create the perfect audience on LinkedIn. And not enough people understand that. It's the world's biggest search engine for B2B leads. Like, yes, just use LinkedIn. If you don't know how to do it, if you want to get a primer on how to start it, get on my LinkedIn training or get my free book. I'll walk you through it. LinkedInriches.com is the free book. LinkedInriches.com/join is the actual training webinar where I walk through this. But yes, that answers question number 1, how to weed through the prospects. As far as is a webinar a great way to position yourself? Yes, it is a great way to position yourself as an expert in your field because let's face it, teaching sells, right? If you can teach well, you can sell. And there's this big movement right now online and elsewhere where people are claiming authority, but they're not demonstrating it. There's way too many people out there who are telling you and who are promoting themselves as a LinkedIn ninja, a webinar guru, a sales, the Chuck Norris of branding and sales. Like, prove it to me, right? We're in a prove it society. Missouri is the show me state. Show me, right? Webinars show me if you're the real deal. Because I can tell you right, from being on hundreds of these, right away if somebody's a fraud or legitimate if you go on a webinar. Because is their training actually helping you? Can you get quick wins? Can you take just what you learned on the webinar and make money and get results? If you can, then you should buy their product, right? They're legitimate. They're going to help you. That's how you become an expert, because if you teach people and train people and demonstrate your expertise and authority, it's a natural extension for them to pay for it with your product or service, okay? Great stuff. Let's do a couple more. So we got Elsa Winkercorn. I heard Zoom is great for webinars, but there are more options. Why choose one over another? And it is Solistic Touch, home-based spa holistic practitioner. Wow. Okay. So Elsa, I answered this a little earlier. I would not use Zoom. I would just use Webinar Jam for all the reasons I already said. Cost, no limit to attendees. Zoom is hot. I know that. People really like it. I would say Webinar Jam. Again, they're coming out with an all-new version here in the next couple months over the summer. It's going to also stream to Facebook Live. There's going to be lots of new features. I have beta access to it. It's amazing. So, yeah, definitely. Good question, though. Tony, I'm going to guess it's Krznarich Krzanich? Oh, man. Sorry, dude. That's a hard last name. Tony. Well, this is an interesting question, and it applies to webinars, podcasts, any audio product, too. When do you adjust your rate of speech, or do you just rely on raw emotion from upbeat and high tempo to, watch this, slow and monotone points? Or what points and stages of the webinar do you kind of change your tone of voice? And Tony is with Digmar Consulting. So what I would say, Tony, this is a great question. You can't fake enthusiasm. You can't fake emotion. And this is one of the things I teach about on webinars that work inside the training, with LinkedIn Riches, with anything else. Think about how we interact with people in real life. Who do we respond to? Do we respond to people that are very monotone and bland and kind of just, boring and whatever? Or do we respond to people who are emotional and passionate and enthusiastic? That's the key, right? You can't fake emotion and enthusiasm. And I can't tell you how many times I've sold a product or service online through a webinar and people said, man, your enthusiasm was contagious, right? I just felt the energy. I was so excited because it sets off this emotional reaction in us. So as far as when to do that during the webinar, obviously you never want to be completely monotone. You want to be excited and engaged and enthusiastic. You can't obviously keep that pace for 60 minutes. It's hard, unless you have a lot of caffeine maybe. But the key is really understanding, especially during the sales pitch and the closing and the transition parts of the webinar, that's when you really want to be excited. And you should be. Like if you legitimately have a product or service that's going to help people, when I'm doing this with LinkedIn Riches and webinars at work, I know that it can be a game-changing thing for someone. I just shared the story on a previous podcast episode and on a blog about a business coach that took LinkedIn Riches, my online training. He got a $90,000 client from it. $90,000 client from that. And he filled up his entire lead, funnel, whatever you want to call it, pipeline, where people are on a waiting list to hire him now. Like he's blown up on LinkedIn. So that's the kind of enthusiasm I bring when I'm selling LinkedIn Riches to other business coaches and consultants, because I know it works, right? I have these success stories of people using it, and I want others to have that outcome, that result. And that's where sales and selling really matters, because you want to be in a situation where you are confident and excited that your product can help people. So yeah, great questions, Tony. John with Hoodie Buddy. Oh, and UK and Israel is where you're located. Hey, John, sounds interesting. Let's see here. One question would be the commercial benefits. How can a webinar be monetized? Any other, quote, soft benefits from doing a webinar? Yeah, so let me answer the second part first, John, and thank you for the question. The soft benefits of doing a webinar are very simple. You build a really big email list, right? When people sign up for a webinar, you build an email list because they're giving you their name and their email. So that's one huge benefit. Another soft benefit, I think, is personal branding. They get to know you, like you, and trust you. They hear you, they see you. So that's another huge benefit, kind of a soft one to kind of, down the line, they're going to probably buy from you at some point. And one of those reasons is, that webinar has warmed them up. As far as how to monetize webinars, it's very simple, right? You sell a product or service at the end of the webinar, or you charge people up front to attend. And I've done both and had success with both. Now, if you're charging people, you've got to build enough value into your brand and your name and who you are that people are willing to pay to spend time with you, right? And the value proposition has to be something of, wow, yes, I can't believe I can get access to this guy for an hour for only $97, right? You have to have earned that right through your free content, whatever it is. But great question. A couple more. Joe has a question. Joe Tufo. Hey, Joe. I hosted weekly conference calls and later webinars for years. John, I'd like to start again, and I want to know what tech platforms you use and why you use them. Watch this. He's going to have a bunch of stuff. Here it comes. And email technology, recording, archive technology, and who your website host is. Joe, I got to take a break. Let me have a drink here. Hold on. Well, Joe, the short answer is I cover all that inside Webinars at Work. The long answer is Webinar Jam for my platform, or EverWebinar. That handles a lot of the website issues if you don't have a ready-made website to go. But as far as the webinar, stuff for website pages and all that, Webinar Jam has registration pages. They have thank you pages. You would need a sales page for your website or a checkout cart to send people to. They do all the emails for you if you want from inside of Webinar Jam. So pre-webinar emails, post-webinar emails, they all can run there. As far as website that I use and email marketing long-term, I use Optimize Press, which is a paid WordPress website program. I think it's like $400 a year, $300 a year, and it works really well because you have a public part of your website and then a paid or membership part. A lot of people use ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson's program. I have experimented with it. I actually stopped using ClickFunnels only because they don't integrate enough and automate enough when it comes to playing nicely with Webinar Jam and EverWebinar. That's a big thing for me, is automating as much of the process as possible. So if I can't automate it all, that's a problem, because I don't want to be trading dollars for hours over and over and over again. That's the whole point of doing what I do. So that's one red flag for me with ClickFunnels. And then I use Entreport right now for email marketing. It's expensive. So are all the other solutions, Infusionsoft and the other ones. It works well, though, and it helps you automate a lot of the processes. What do I use for archiving? Webinar Jam, EverWebinar will archive your videos. We'll save them. You can replay them. So that kind of answers that. But great question, Joe. Very detailed. All right, Mary Murphy. Hey, Mary. And your website is edwardsandmurphy.com. Hey, John, how can agents use webinars to connect with their clients with a view to keeping in touch or being of service? And it's Edwards and Murphy, Coldwell Banker, probably Burnett. So real estate agent, Mary Murphy, how can real estate agents use webinars? Fascinating question. This could almost be the topic of a whole nother show, but I think you could really do well doing a webinar for people in your area, right? In your neighborhoods, your zip codes, things like that. And it would be a webinar where you're giving them information. So, hey, wanted to fill you in on the latest with schools in your area and city updates and the hot new neighborhoods that everyone's talking about and new construction going up and all the things that people look to realtors for. I think of when I move or when I want to move as someone with kids, if that's your target audience, what are the schools like? What are the districts? What is the zoning? What are the taxes? What are the hot neighborhoods? Access to parks, trails, all those things. Like, you could do what would basically be an automated webinar where you share all that information at once and then use a combination of LinkedIn and Facebook ads to target people by zip code, to target the consumers by zip code in your areas, just to say, hey, we've got a free webinar presentation where we are walking through everything, Minneapolis, I'm just using a city name, or everything, Indianapolis, like all the best schools, all the best neighborhoods, all the best new construction going up, all these different things that and you have access to and you stay on top of. Give that information to consumers because you're being of service and being of value. Even if I'm not ready to move now, that's stuff I'm curious about, so I'll probably want to tune in and watch it, and then you in exchange get my name and my email and maybe even my address or zip code, and then can stay in front of me with service, with reminders of, hey, if you're ever thinking of moving, here's another webinar we did about, the new school situation in Indianapolis and rezoning or whatever it is. That's how I would use it. That's how I would use it as a realtor, one and done. And I think it could be very effective for you as a realtor because of the ability to target people with LinkedIn and Facebook ads by zip code, so you can get your specific people in those neighborhoods. You could also share it with relocation experts and HR directors at the big companies where you are and say, hey, this is a resource we've put together for people moving to the area. It's in the form of a webinar where we teach. If you do it live, you could even have live Q&A. That's a way to be in front of people who are interested and who are either in that area, living there now, maybe looking to sell or move, or coming to the area. So hope that helps, Mary Murphy. Last question. The honor goes to the one and only Mark Bader or Boder, B-O-E-D-E-R. John, a couple questions. How do you monetize? What's the best way to charge for webinar? Or how do you use the webinar as a means of, you got cut off, Mark. Hold on. You got cut off on my paper printout. Well, I'll answer the first question, Mark. How do you monetize? Oh, man. Here's the simple answer. Either you charge people up front, which I talked about earlier, and you have to have enough value and pull with your audience that they would want to spend money, or the value proposition is such of, instead of, hiring me to be a one-on-one coach. I'm going to do this special webinar for only 10 people. And, for $50 each, you get to hang out with me for an hour and I'll answer all your questions and give you feedback on your business, etc. The other way to monetize a webinar is, of course, to sell a product or service at the end of the presentation. Now, the key to that is, well, how much can I price and what should I sell my product for? And I cover all this in depth on Webinars That Work, on the presentations and things like that. But basically, the short answer is the more value you bring during the training part of your webinar, which should be, 75% of it, 60% of it should be core, pure training that people are interested in. Get them quick wins, get them things they can do, and then it builds toward the offer. The more value you bring in the training, the more you can charge for the product, especially if it's a natural extension of what they've already learned. So, great stuff, great questions. This was a fun episode. So if you're loving this, if you're loving the podcast, the Facebook Lives, here's what I want to do. Do me a favor and leave me a review on your podcasting network, so Stitcher, iTunes, whatever. Tell people about the show. Tell them about Nemo Radio. If you want to binge listen to other episodes, if you're not subscribed yet, go to nemoradio.com and you can sign up through your favorite podcast provider. Also, if you want more in-depth training on LinkedIn and how to use it to get these clients that I've been talking about, linkedinriches.com. That's where to go for the free book, everything else. If you want more tips on going deeper with webinars, how to use webinars to sell, go to webinarsthatwork.net and then webinarsthatwork.net/join for the free training. And that's where we can get even more in depth. So I want to thank you guys so much for listening. I'll be back soon with another episode of Nemo Radio. Have a great rest of your weekend,